Okay, so on to the next little bit about quadratics. Now, today we're going to look at some calculator based quadratic questions, because if we take a look at these two solved questions I have here, there are two issues with both of them. So the issue with the first one, I've got that 0 equals 70x squared plus 127x plus 24. Factorising that with such big numbers would be genuinely quite awful. Possible, but would be a pain to do. Then our second one, I've got solve x squared plus 6 plus 15. If we were to try and factorise that, think about our sum and product. Our sum would be a +1 and our product would be 15. And any of my factors of 15 in this style question, I can't add or subtract to make 1. So that means I will be working with the decimals, which I can't really do and is not very plausible for me. So that means we have to use a calculator method, and we use a formula called the quadratic formula. Hey, so you are given this formula and it is given in this shape and form. So the roots of ax squared plus bx plus c is, and we have x equals minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that all goes over 2a. So that is the formula we are going to be working with. That is our quadratic formula. It can look a little daunting at first, but trust me, as you get more and more used to using it, it's actually quite a nice, straightforward formula. Now, the key thing to remember is in the explanation on the formula sheet, it describes it as the roots. Remember, solving a quadratic, finding the roots, they are the same thing. So don't get thrown off by that. You can still use this formula to solve the quadratic. So let's just jump straight into using it. So for this first one, we've got solve the equation 2x squared plus 10x plus 11 equals 0. So the first thing I want to do is identify my values of a, b, and c here. So to start off with, my a, if I look at where the a is in my formula, that 2 is what matches with the x squared, so that means a is going to be equal to 2. Then for my b comes second and is attached to the x, and that 10 is what is attached to my x, so b equals 10. And lastly, the c is the bit that's not got any letters associated with it. So those are my values. Next thing I want to do is substitute that into my formula. So I do recommend making sure that you write down the formula when you're doing these, because if you're flicking back and forth and trying to substitute it as you're going, you are likely to make a mistake. So to start off with, I've got minus my value of b, which is 10, plus minus square root on my value of b, which is 10 squared, minus 4 times my value of a, which is 2, times my value of c, which is 11. And that all goes over 2 times my value of a, which is 2. So that's my first step. I've done my substitution. That will get me 1 mark in the exam. Now, you might be wondering what this plus minus deal is about. Main reason that's there is because if you square root a number, so square root of 4 is 2, I also can use -2 times -2 to make 4. So you've actually got 2 answers when you square root something. So that's just there as a reminder. And remember, quadratics have 2 answers, so that solves that problem for us. So the next thing we want to do is just neaten up that equation. I'm actually going to continue over here. So I've still got that minus 10 at the front. And then I want to put that little bit that's under the square root into my calculator. So I want to put in that 10 squared minus 4 times 2 times 11. And that's going to come out as 12. And remember, it's just the bit that's under the square root. I don't include it. I don't include the square root itself. And by neating that up, that would be my second mark in most exam situations. And now I need to work out that plus version and the minus version of my answer. So in one step, I want to put minus 10 plus root 12 over 4 into my calculator. And in another step, I want to put minus 10 minus root 12 over 4. So I want to put in both of those versions with the plus and with the minus. So I've got minus 10 plus root 12 over 4. And that gives us this lovely answer of minus 1.6339, and it goes on and on and on. And then I do the same again with a minus. And I recommend using the arrow keys on your calculator to just sort of scroll through and then just swap the minus and the plus with the minus. Just means you don't have to type it out again. It makes life a little bit nicer. But I'm not fully done yet. Make sure you pay attention. A lot of time these ask you to give your answer to a certain number of decimal places. So that's what I'm going to do. So to 2 decimal places, I'll look at my third one. In this case, that's going to round down. And my third one and my second one is going to round up. So my final answer is going to be minus 1.63 and minus 3.37. And I must make sure I write down my unrounded answer and my rounded answer, because I get marks for those both parts. Okay, so let's take a look at another example of this then. So here I've got solve the equation x squared plus 3x minus 2. So again, I want to identify what my a, b, and c is. So a, there's no number in front of my x squared. That means it's a 1. B is a 3. And c is going to be minus 2. So putting that into my formula, so I've got x equals minus b plus minus. In fact, actually, I've got it up at the top, so I won't write out the formula again. So I'm going to have that minus, my b is 3. And then I'm going to have 3 squared minus 4 times a is 1. And my c is minus 2. And make sure you put that in brackets. Whenever you substitute a negative, put it in brackets. And then 2 times my value of a of 1 on the bottom. Then I want to neaten it up. So I've got that minus 3 plus minus. And in my calculator, I do 3 squared. Take away 4 times 1 times that negative 2. And again, I make sure my negative 2 is in a bracket, which gives me 17. And that's going to go over 2. Now I want my 2 different values. So either, actually let's just write that a little lower. So I'm either going to be working with minus 3 plus root 17 over 2, or minus 3 minus root 17 over 2. So putting that into my calculator, minus 3 plus root 17 over 2. That gives me an answer of 0.5615 and so forth. And then same again, but with the minus, gives me an answer of minus 3.5615 and so forth. In this question, it's asking me to round to 1 decimal place. So I look at the second one. That's going to round up. That's going to round up. So my final answer is going to be 0.6 or minus 3.6. Okay, let's look at one last example then. So again, labeling my A, B, and C. So A is going to equal 5, B is going to equal -13, and C is going to equal 2. Putting that into my formula. So I've got negative my value for B, and I must include that negative sign, plus minus -13 squared, and make sure that squared's on the outside of the bracket, minus 4 times my value for A times my value for C. And that all goes over 2 times my value for A. So neaten that up, that double negative at the front there, that's actually just going to turn into a positive. Then plus minus, putting that -13 squared minus 4 times 5 times 2. And that's going to give me 129 all over 20. So then separating out my plus and my minus, so I've got 13 plus 129 over 20, or 13 minus 129 over 20. Putting that into the calculator. So my +1 first. In fact, it doesn't matter what way round you do it. I just always have the habit of doing plus first. That gives us 1.2178 and so forth. And the other one with the minus gives me 0.0821 and so forth. So it wants me to give my answer to 2 decimal places. So then start off with, oh, I just realised I made a huge error. 2 times 5 is not 20. It's going to give me 10. So I need to actually change that. Let's fix it up. That's going to be a 10, 10, 10. Super easy mistake to make, something small and dumb like that. Always keep an eye out for that. Right, so if I divide it by 10, my plus version is going to be 2.4357 and so forth. And my minus version is going to come out as 0.16421 and so forth. Rounding it to 2 decimal places. So looking at the third one, that's going to round up. Third one, that's going to round down. So I'm going to have 2.44 or 0.16. So that's how to use the quadratic formula. If you have any questions, just ask, but good luck with the work.